Hi, I'm Sherry Murphy with the Ultimate Real Estate Group at Coldwell Banker Realty.
And I'm Ivy Gilliland.
Ivy, I've had clients tell me recently about loved ones passing and how painful the process is going through probate and how long it takes. And you told me about your dad
It is,
recently.
yes, it is very frustrating. We do have Dan Richey with us today with Superior Retirement Solutions, and he's going to talk a little bit about estate planning and living trusts.
Awesome. I can't wait to meet Dan. Let's bring him on. Dan, it is so nice to meet you. Thank you for coming in and helping us out today. So I was talking to Ivy and how he went to you to get his dad's estate set up. My clients are always telling me how painful the probate process is, how costly it is to them when they inherit properties. So what do you recommend to people to avoid probate and the cost that they may incur after they inherit a property?
That's an excellent question, Sherry. Thanks for having me. So there's a couple of different tools that a lot of folks would use for estate planning. And one that often is brought up from time to time is called a living trust. And what that essentially helps people do is avoid the complications and the costs and the timeliness of probate by seemingly passing the assets from the one generation down to the next.
Can you give me an example of a situation like that?
Absolutely. Working with a client that has been a client for the last several years now, and her mom unfortunately just passed away. Wasn't something that was completely unexpected as she was getting up there in age, but her mom happened to not be a client. And unfortunately, when she did pass away, most of her assets were going to be subject to probate, including her real estate holdings, which included a couple of different homes as well as some different properties that she'd acquired over the years. So, unfortunately for her mother and my client, who's now the executor of her estate, she's going to be forced to go to the courts, go through the timely process of paying for the attorneys, paying the property taxes, continue to pay for the insurance and the maintenance and the upkeep on the home. And that's just going to be something that's going to end up costing her somewhere in the neighborhood of, in Texas, 12 to 14 months. Had her mom actually come to us and talked about setting up a living trust and done proper estate planning, a lot of these things could have been passed down to my client and her two brothers within a matter of days, maybe a couple of weeks. And in doing so, that really allows for the children in most cases to just kind of put some of those things behind them and move on with what with what their parents would have wanted them to do. And it's unfortunate that a lot of people wait a little bit too late in life or a little bit too long to try to make some of those decisions. And before you know it, it's too late and you can't go back.
So tell me about the taxes that they incur when there is no trust or living trust and they do inherit a property and it has skyrocketed in value as we've seen over the last few years.
One of the biggest hurdles that people are going to have to overcome is just paying property taxes in general.
Right.
The state still wants their dollars, the county still wants their dollars, and whether somebody's living there or not, whoever is the executor of that estate is going to be forced to come out of pocket to cover a lot of those bills. And Sherry, it's not just about the taxes. Think about keeping the electricity on, thinking about mowing the yard. Think about keeping up with just cleaning and stuff, so that at the time it does come time to sell, it's actually show ready and available to go.
Right.
But there are other complications with federal state taxes, which actually has a pretty high amount. But regardless, somebody's going to have to come out of pocket, and it's obviously not going to be the person that's already passed away.
Right, right. So Dan, what about capital gains tax? Does that come into play on an inheritance like this?
It absolutely can. There is an exemption on your federal income taxes of $250,000 per person on the gain of a property that was your primary residence.
Okay.
There's a little misconception because real estate has been a relatively good investment over the years, and people have acquired different plots of land or rental properties, which have also gone up in value.
Mm-hmm.
Those are going to be subject to 100% of the gain that you're going to end up paying taxes on.
Wow.
So generally speaking, when somebody acquires a property and then they end up selling it, as about 95% of children do. They don't usually want to maintain the residence that their parents lived in. They sell it. There could be some substantial capital gains, especially in this kind of environment.
Sure. So if they're in that living trust, or these properties are in that living trust or trust, are they still subject to that tax then, or does that help alleviate that?
It can help alleviate some of those taxes on the
Okay.
capital gains. There are some provisions that we would build into a revocable living trust that allow for different types of assets, including things like stocks and bonds and mutual funds, in addition to real estate, that can be segmented in some cases that would help alleviate future concerns from capital gains tax.
Okay. Think about, if they own property, think about putting it into a trust or a living trust to basically save their heirs a ton of money, a ton of headaches, and it's almost a no-brainer.
Well, sure, you could say that, and that's not necessarily the wrong way to look at it. Um, the cost to set one up is really not that substantial at all, and you're correct. It saves a host of headaches and alleviates a lot of concerns and problems when it comes to things like inheriting assets such as real estate.
Right.
So, should everyone have a trust? Well, everybody's situation's a little unique, but if you
Okay.
do own property, if you have real estate, if you have other kinds of assets that you're looking to pass down to your children or to anyone in the next generation, it is critical to make sure that you have a proper estate plan set up, which would include having a revocable living trust.
That's awesome. So Dan, thank you for coming in and sharing all this information with us. It's been wonderful to meet you.
Cherry, thank you very much for having me. If you've had the experience of losing a loved one or have known somebody that has lost a loved one, not only do you have to go through the incredible pain of losing a family member or a parent, but you've also experienced the painful process that comes with going through probate. There are ways to mitigate the complications that come with dealing with the loss of a parent, especially when it comes to real estate and other assets that you might end up acquiring or inheriting. That is why it's critical to sit down with someone like myself to have this conversation around estate planning and how that can really tie into the other things that are potentially going to come into the mix at the time that that person ends up passing away. It's critical to have things set up proactively and not try to wait and do things reactively, because at that point, it may be too late to try to adjust things and make sure stuff is set up the way that it should be. If you'd like to sit down and have a conversation about your estate plan, or even if it's the estate plan with regards to your parents or somebody that you're helping to care for, you can visit our website at www.srswm.com. My name again is Dan Richey, and the phone number where you can reach me is 817-723-7779. I have offices located here in Southlake as well as in Flower Mound. Thank you again for having me, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Dan. If you'd like more information on estate planning and living trust, check out our full video at the link below.
From your ultimate real estate professionals, I'm Ivy Gilliland.
And I'm Sherry Murphy, and we are your ultimate real estate professionals.
Thanks for watching.